Brenda.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. This is always the best, isn't it? Makes sense. Wow. I have another sheet for you, the non-compete. Do you have it online? I have one downstairs. If I could give you.
Can I sign that one after downstairs?
Sure. Okay, I'll do it for you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so it's 7 o'clock. Call to order the July 19th, 2022 meeting of the White Bear Lake Conservation District Board. We have a quorum, and we're called to order. So on to item 3, approval of agenda. Does anybody have any adjustments they'd like to make to tonight's agenda? Okay, would anybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That passes. So next item, approval of the June 2022 meeting minutes. Does anybody have any adjustments that they would like to make to those minutes? Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the June meeting minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, public comments. Each meeting we reserve 15 minutes to allow the public to talk about items that are not on the agenda. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to take advantage of that time? Just please come up to the podium and let us know who you are and tell us what you're thinking about.
Didn't know I was going to be speaking.
Yeah.
So, my name's Steve Smith. I have a business downtown White Bear. And I also have a boat that I keep on Dock 5 at Docks of White Bear. And been there many years. I've been renting from Mr. McGoldrick here. And needless to say, everything's normally been fine. Everybody's kind of kept their distance or what have you. But come to my surprise this year when I showed up, it appeared that Tally's reconfigured their whole docks, their configuration. Why he did that, I can only speculate. There was issues, I know, between him and Mr. McGoldrick, and needless to say, many of us boat owners are getting caught in the middle of it. So I told everybody I was going to come down and give you, throw in my 2 cents. And, I understand Mr. McGoldrick's issue. He's saying that, that the DNR permit for Tally's, that they're supposed to be 30 feet back from their property line. So, that's for all of you to decide, or, that might not even be your issue. But I guess my issue is that, so this year Tally's reconfigured their docks and they needed more space. So they took their main dock that normally goes straight out, and I keep in mind I'm a customer of obviously Mr. McGoldrick's, and I'm a customer of Tally's as well. And because of how they reconfigured their docks, they thought, oh, we need more room, so let's just take this dock, our main dock, and let's point it out this direction. And so what I did, I took some aerial photos, so you folks can, if you want them, I can give them to you.
Sure.
Do you want them?
Yeah, I'll take it.
And
what-
just to kind of give you an idea of what.
And what's the date of these photos? Or when were they taken, do you recall?
Just a week or two ago. I had them printed on the 15th. So, so needless to say, the way the dock is right now, I've got a 24-foot pontoon. If there's no boats there, I can finagle my boat and get it in my slip. If there's a boat tied up to the dock, I can't get in or out of my slip. And usually most people are, nice enough to where I can say, hey, I got to get in my slip. Last year I had a verbal altercation because when they have their concert nights, well, they'll have boats that will tie up 2 and 3 wide, and I get it. It's a fun place to be, and like I say, and I'm a customer of theirs as well. But we wanted to just get out, and so I asked the gentleman if he'd move his boat, and he had no intentions of moving it. They were drinking, they were partying, and they were in their thing. So it's like you just let it go. And then 2 weeks ago, I heard of another elderly gentleman, two boats down from me. And he said, we wanted to get out of our slip, and it was a concert night, and they were tied up 2 and 3 wide. And he said, yeah, he just sat there and looked at them, and they looked back, and he wasn't in a position to say anything. And the thing is, everything is just that close to where there's just not enough room. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I talked to Mark. He's the officer a couple times, and he totally understood. He went down there. He called me when he was on the dock. He agreed with me. It's like, yeah, their dock at the very least, in my opinion, should be pointed just straight out to the middle of the lake. If you look, all the docks are pointed to the middle of the lake except for this one, their main dock. So because they needed more room. And so needless to say, it's just made it very cumbersome and unrelaxing, unenjoyable for all of us that have boats on that side, especially if they have boats tied up. Before this year, yeah, we could typically make it work. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because it is unfortunate, again, I get it, but, if a business is doing well, it shouldn't be at the expense of somebody else. And that's basically what's happening. So, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Again, I've had a couple of conversations with Mark, but eventually he just stopped calling me back, and that's kind of where I left it. So I heard you guys were meeting tonight, so that's why I thought I would just bring this to your attention.
Yeah,
so
thanks.
If you can do something about it, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, well, thanks for coming out and talking to us about it.
Okay.
Just so you know, we prepared a letter and sent it to Tallies asking them to adjust that dock. Mm-hmm. And my understanding is that they straightened it out.
No.
Like it was in the shape of a banana, kind of. And my understanding was that they straightened it out, but maybe that's not the case.
No. Yeah, you can tell by the photos there that nothing's moved.
Yeah, and I don't know when.
And I don't know if you should be addressing Tallies or if you should be addressing the city, because apparently he rents from the city. So just throw that out there.
Yeah, the easement on.
Yeah,
Alan.
I think the board would probably want to know whether or not he's actually approached Callie about this problem.
Have I? No. I don't think that's my place.
It's just a question.
Yep, question and answer. So, yeah, that's something that obviously it's in their best interest to have this configuration, because if he moves that dock back over, the way he reconfigured his docks is that instead of coming in the side where people used to come in to get gas, they're now coming in on the other side of the dock, on the north side. And, yeah. I mean, at the very least, if he did the configuration he had, that was workable from our standpoint. I mean, he still wasn't, apparently abiding by the DNR rules or what have you, but we just want to be able to get our boats in and out
No, well, that's reasonable. That's very reasonable, right? And it's unfortunate that they're tying up like that and blocking access. That's
And again, they could tie up one wide, normally, the way the dock was, and we could get in and out. We still could never do it when they're 2 or 3 wide. But again, that's his business, especially when they have their concert nights. People want to enjoy the lake and come up and eat and have a drink or whatever. So I don't want to sound unreasonable, but again, that's great for their business. But again, it shouldn't be at the expense of other people that pay good money to keep our boats down there.
Sure.
So,
does anybody have any questions for Steve?
Was a formal complaint then given to Mark on that, or?
Right.
It sounds like we did something on it.
Yeah, Mark prepared. My understanding is Mark prepared a letter. And Alan, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I think it was a different person who lodged a complaint. It was electronically received by the board. And so in full disclosure, Mark and I went out there, and the board has its own aerial shots. So when were these taken again?
Last week, you said.
Approximately?
week and a half.
Yeah. I was out there, I want to say July 4th weekend, and sent the drone off my drone. And so Mark's got those pictures. And so they're probably going to be pretty consistent with this, because it sounds like it was probably about the same time.
Now, Alan, did you know that there was like 3-4 boats tied up? Like, did you know that or not?
I got yelled at by the AV guy for not having the microphone. I hadn't heard that, and I don't believe when the drone went up I saw that. I'll try and bring them up here and see if they compare to this. Yeah. But again, it wasn't on a band night, and it was probably in the morning.
Wednesdays and Saturdays.
But it's a problem, right?
Well, if you look at these, I mean, if you're having 2 or 3 boats wide tied off, I mean, it chokes that whole, well, you can pass them around again.
Yeah.
It would choke off everyone who's behind wherever the 3 boats are, as far as I can tell.
Right.
So.
And they have to know that. But, it does, it just kind of figured, it feels like we're going to do what's right for our business, and we're going to give the rest of you the middle finger,
Or they're
That's what it
or
is.
they're not addressing it, right? Or they're like, here, fine, concert night, go fix it.
Right. But I mean, normally concert nights, if we wanted to go out, we would just not go out.
And that's the main reason I'm asking about whether or not tallies have been approached, because if it's just party night and everyone's coming up there and it's customers over parking, right. I mean, that is a tallies problem specifically. It's managing cars in a parking lot, basically, is what it amounts to.
But with that, if there's a formal complaint with us, don't we go to tallies and tell them, hey?
That's what we did.
Yeah, but what about the 2-3 boats deep tied together?
That was not the issue, though. Yeah, exactly.
Well, here's an addition onto it. Don't we have to go back to tallies and say, hey?
If you consider this a formal complaint, which is what I would, I think it needs to be investigated. And if another letter needs to be written to tallies that you need to control parking on your busy nights when people are coming in, because the sad thing is if it's a really nice night to watch or listen to music at tallies, it's probably a really nice night for this guy to take out his boat. Sure. And so it's the confluence of a perfect night on the lake for customers.
Mark and I had talked about too, is that, even if they put up a no parking sign, with the left arrow on that side, and maybe remove the tie-ups on that side, that might help. If he says, I absolutely can't move my dock. But
don't make it attractive would be the point, right? If you see tie-ups and you're in a boat, you're going to use them.
Right.
Why wouldn't you?
I'm just saying that would be one way to help deter it.
People pull up and get their own ropes out just because they're so used to parking there.
Right.
So.
And I haven't been on it. Is that the gas dock, as they call it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So, like I say, that's the way it was last year. We all managed to come in and out, but it seemed like he just reconfigured his docks so before everybody else did their thing. But
So we'll take it as a formal complaint, and we will prepare a letter and talk to tallies about that.
whatever you all think.
Yeah.
So, appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. And thanks again for coming out.
All right. Thank you.
Steve, would you like your pictures back?
You can keep them if you want.
I think that'd be helpful if we could hang on to them.
What's that?
That'd be helpful if we could hang on to them.
Yeah, just
to compare it to what we took.
Yep, that's good.
That's fine.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, we'll move on. New business. There is no new business. And unfinished business. The only item is Susie. Did you have any luck with the buoy?
I called Washington County Sheriff's Department, and they told me that I should go and remove it myself, which I'm not willing to do, and so it's still sitting there. And I called once, they told me that. I called back again and said, I'm really not willing to do that. Please remove it, and it's still there.
Did you ask if there was a permit for it?
No, I never did. No, because it's actually in my neighbor's ADUA. There would be no reason why anybody else would have a permit, and Mike doesn't have. It's not his.
Alan?
That sounds like a good complaint to the sheriff's department to have it removed. So don't know if that's happened yet or not, but
It has not.
So Susie says she's made the complaint and twice, and they've asked her to move it herself.
I'm not moving it.
won't do anything.
They have not done anything. It's sitting there, and I saw it today, and I'm not willing to move it.
I don't blame you.
And so it's still there, but it is, an obstacle in somebody's way. It's barely above the water, so it would be very easy.
Where's the buoy?
The buoy, it's in front of
Kramer's?
471 Lake Avenue. It belongs
Here to your house?
next door.
Is it Harrod's or the other way?
It is the other way, Kramer's.
That's Kramer's place. Mm-hmm. I'll call the deputy and see what they're doing about it.
Okay.
If the deputy doesn't do it, I'll go do it.
Well,
I'll go pick it up.
it's really a law enforcement deal, though. So if it's
Yeah,
someone else's,
I'm not touching it.
I wouldn't recommend that you just go out and grab it.
That's what we do on White Bear.
Yeah, not a good idea.
On top of that,
Okay,
I'll call the sheriff tomorrow.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah.
Doesn't make
Okay,
sense, right?
so moving on.
Clean it up if it's
Reports and
Talking more.
action items. Executive committee. The executive committee didn't meet before this meeting, so no report. And Lake Quality Committee, Mike.
Lake quality, lake level this afternoon was 923.56. 923.56. That's 4 8/10 inches lower than last month. We've had no rain, no really measurable rain. It's evaporating like crazy with the hot winds and the sun and everything. So unless we get some rain, we're stuck there. Still above average, but very close to it. Lake temperature is 78 degrees. It was 74 last month. It's 78 now. Obviously, it's going up, and with the probably in a week or so, looking at the weather reports, it's going to be 80 or 80 above 80. The lake survey was done June 30th. Meredith came along for a good part of it and saw what we do out there and got involved. And so the survey was done on the 30th. 32.7 acres were found of Eurasian water milfoil that were treatable. A lot of times you see a plant here, a plant there, and within an area the size of in front of the desk here, you might find 5 or 6 plants. It's really not dense enough to treat. So you might see some plants out there, but they're not. We don't treat them unless it's fairly dense. Then we treat them, get after them and treat them. And we saw lots of other plants out there too. It was very interesting. What did you think, Meredith?
I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, it was fun. And you saw how the electronics come into play, how they read all of that stuff, and then you go into the GPS and you can actually pinpoint where you're going, where you treated last year, where we've treated in past years, and follow the stream and zigzag back and forth. And so it's a good, thorough survey. So June 30th, we did that, 32.7 acres, and on July 13th, all 32.7 acres were treated, and they were treated with triclopyr. We usually split it between triclopyr and 2,4-D, but 2,4-D was unavailable, totally unavailable, and apparently has been most of the summer, so people have been using triclopyr. We originally used triclopyr exclusively anyhow because it was a much more friendly agent to use. So full treatment was done. Happened to notice a few plants today. They were looking pretty sick. It takes a couple of weeks for it to actually take effect and bring the plants down, but it's starting to happen. So we expect that to be a good treatment. And then Steve McComas will go out in a couple of weeks, and he'll inspect those areas where it was treated to make sure that it was a thorough treatment and that there's no retreating necessary. So that's it for all of that stuff.
Any questions for Mike?
I do. The plastic bags that are floating in the lake, what information is on the sheet inside those plastic bags where it's treated?
Did you notice that they got a big DNR seal on them?
I didn't notice.
Yeah, they were doing a fish count. So that was, I read that somewhere. I thought it was in the press, in the White Bear Press. Anyhow, yeah, so you'll see those buoys out there. They've got a DNR label on them. I don't know how they count fish with those, but they do, so that's what counts.
I think you could do it in one hand.
Any additional questions for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. Lake Utilization Committee, Mark is out tonight, so I will take that. First item, Tally's dock adjustment status. Mark let me know that the dock was readjusted. Now it sounds like maybe it wasn't completely readjusted or readjusted adequately, but Mark let me know that it was readjusted.
As of when?
Well, he sent the email today, but I don't know when the actual adjustment took place. Right, and
Our photo as well. I took that on the one you guys all saw that I took. I can't speak to the visitor, but that was the 3rd of July, so that was Sunday, right? And so I delivered those to Mark. Later on that week, we met and looked at them, and I gave him the whole file. So it's entirely possible that they could have moved the dock. I imagine that that letter would have gone out that week after the 4th of July. So I don't know, but I'll send up since I own the bird, I'll send the drone back up and we'll compare it.
okay.
That's the only way to do it, really.
Right, and if it's not to our satisfaction, I guess, then we can just address that when we address the parking, the boat parking as well.
Yeah, without some evidence, I mean, we only have half the story now, so we'll see if it's actually happened, so.
Nice, okay. Next item, 4711 Lake Avenue. A boat was removed, so they now are within the number of boats allowed. 4955 compliance status update. Mark wasn't sure about this item, so I don't know what Mike.
The dock's been rebuilt. Excuse me. The dock has been rebuilt, except for looks like there's one section, and that probably has been rebuilt by now because it was like a week ago when I looked at it. So that was taken care of.
Okay. City of Birchwood amendments. Elm application and Birch dock amendment. And Mark just said for the board. And does anybody on the LUC know what's...
I have an idea, but can we get a synopsis of what? Because these things have not changed for years.
Yeah, board, I mean, as the Birchwood City Attorney, I can tell you that an application was submitted. This is pursuant to a conversation with the Dock Association. Thank goodness we actually have representatives here that can probably speak to what they're doing and why, who are here in the audience, so I would call them up. But the city board asks them to do very specific things relative to their approved docks, and so these are amendments to take into account what's actually happened, I believe, this summer, as opposed to what was on their original application. So just minor modifications, as you can see, moving a dock 10 feet, things of that nature. But Dana, I don't know.
We voted on that 2 months ago where
one issue.
One was on the Birch moving at 10 feet, and we're like, no, we approved the permit of the permit that has been the same forever.
Right, and I think that there was some confusion about what actually happened versus what was on the permit.
Why does it need to change? I'm trying to understand who wants to do the change. It's the city of Birchwood.
I'm not the one to ask that question to.
Well, I'm asking.
But these guys will tell you the answer, at least in their opinion.
City board, city council.
Mary, or what?
Or is it
Likely.
or is it the association?
No, it's the city council.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't.
According to the city council meeting that I observed.
I don't think it was driven by anyone who came marching in and complained about it. So it's something that started at the city council level.
She asked me 5 years for the same thing for that Birch thing. Right? It's been in her brain for a while.
These guys can speak to it, so that's why they're here tonight.
Would anybody like to speak to this item?
Good evening. My name is Dana Klemp, and I'm the current president of the Dock Association, following in Chris's footsteps from a few years back. This began months ago with the moving Birch Dock 10 feet over to enhance the swim beach was the driver. And so as a Dock Association, we met the mayor and down at the dock, at that easement, and said we'd be happy to move it. But initially it started out move it 15 to 25 feet, and we came down to 10 feet. But so we got this direct direction to do it. And in parallel, like physically, if you like the next day, I think Lynn Hanson and I went down and moved it to 10 feet that the mayor agreed was where she thought would be good. And then in parallel, I just thought I better cover my butt, because I think of this board as the governing body for what's in the water. So I sent a note to the Conservation District with what was going on. And the council I got back from a representative of the lake utilization said, keep it where it is and then submit an application. And so I kind of got in hot water with the mayor and council because it didn't do it. We ended up moving it back to the original position because I thought I wanted to be in compliance. Because down the road, like next year, we'd like to get another permit and so our people can vote. So we did that and we submitted that paperwork, and that went through last month. And we weren't here because we were under the impression that we didn't need to be. That was going to be and that went through the moving at 10 feet. So after that was done on, and if I get my chronology right, that was on a Tuesday. And anticipating the 4th of July weekend, I organized a group. We ended up having 15 volunteers the Saturday after you folks approved moving at 10 feet. And our direction was we moved it to 10 feet to come in compliance. And in the process of this, we did discover we were out of compliance. We were permitted for 116 feet length at Birch, and we were over. And so our goal was to move it to 10 feet for sure and make it as short as we could, but still retaining 8 boats at that dock. And so in the process, we achieved that goal of moving it to 10 feet, and we only managed to make it 6 feet shorter to still maintain. And now as the lake continues to go down, our person that's closest to shore is very vulnerable to not possibly being able to float their boat off the lift. That remains to be seen. And but that's kind of the bit of it. And in the process of this, we were closely scrutinized and measurements were taken. And as everyone in the room knows that's conscious this, as the lake level changes, the length over water changes. And so we put the dock starts over water it was Friday, April 13th. And since then, there was at some point a little up, but it's now down, and all of our docks there's more length that's back over the shore, and they've become shorter in effect. But we were measured at a point where Birch was too long, beyond, it was well over the permitted length. And then one dock down, Elm, was, I don't remember the number, it might have been strong single digits, but the applications that were submitted that the council and mayor last Tuesday approved reflect the docks as they are, Birch Dock and Elm Dock as they are this year. And the Elm one was a nominal length change like less than 10 feet, I think. It's very nominal. But this Birch one is our hot tamale. It's the swimming beach. Well, the city has a beach called K Beach that they manage and have a dock, and that's designated swim beach. Birch Beach is a really beautiful part of the shoreline, and that's really, I don't know how the comparison is used, but the intent is to have, we got it to 10 feet over, it's 10 feet wider for attraction for swimmers and waders and whatever. So I hope I've covered, but if, maybe I've said enough if there are any questions, but our whole goal is we've gotten along with our neighbors, and we want to continue to do that but be in compliance with this board, because we view you as the governing body, and we want to be able to, it's a wonderful benefit to our community to be able to have these, boats and docks, and it's great. So
So I have a question, just to confirm my understanding. So the Elm dock is maybe a little longer, but not significantly
No, and
longer.
it's also shorter than each of the neighbors' docks, so we're not protruding beyond our neighbors.
Sure, but I'm thinking relative to your permit that we issued.
I've got the paperwork.
No, and that's okay. But it's just okay. Elm is compliant with the permit,
Yes.
And then Birch is a little longer than the permit.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's what this new application, the amended application, reflects the actual length now, and that's still longer than the 116.
Okay.
So it's a higher number. And
Is the city of Birchwood happy now, or?
Well, they approved these applications last Tuesday.
Okay.
Correct, Alan?
Yeah, the simple way to put it, since we're on White Bear Lake and we just do things, what I said was, unless there's a complaint, no one's going to come to the board and say foul. And so what happened was, basically they said, let's do it right. So now they're back before you with an amendment to kind of permit what is there as opposed to what was maybe rhetorically supposed to be there. And so that's all this is. And the way it works in Birchwood is these guys say what they want, the city council then approves it essentially, and then it comes here. So it's a two-step process before it gets before you guys, and they're very slight amendments, I would say. So but yeah, they were
the first one, though, with the 10 feet to the neighbor to the west, agree on it?
As far as I know.
Did they agree on it?
The mayor said she covered that, so we didn't get directly involved.
I think the most vocal person in there was probably Richard Galena.
That has to go on the permit too. Like, we have to go with the neighbors and agree. Like, they have to know the changes too on the permit.
Yeah, and as far as I know, everyone knew that was the discussion point.
If they're submitting the permit, they have to get the data, and then it has to get approved by the city, right? So
I don't know what they
Mary's
did.
blessing is not correct in my eyes, right? For sure.
I don't know what they did prior. I don't know what they did prior to it, so I don't know what notice was put out there.
Mary got it.
Mary got what?
Approval from the neighbor or something.
He said that. Yeah, Dana said that.
Well, she told me that. I probably have that in the email, and she made reference to Dick Galena on one side and the name of one person.
Move it and all the neighbors pissed.
So, well, for an example, I guess it's like being a teetotaler, at a bar. I'm just trying to do the right thing. And so today I had created a draft letter to the neighbors of Birch on each side because I view that to be a substantial difference compared to our dock is shorter than the neighboring docks at Elm, so I thought it was less of an issue. So my board members got back to me. They approved the letter that seemed to make sense. I put it in the Post today. The letter basically says to the neighbors, please be advised, we've done this, and the dock is too long, but we've applied for a permit to the city. The city's approved it. And so I've communicated with them, and I've given them my name, phone number, email, and then saying that we will consult with them in the fall as we create a new application for next season to gain their support. And the game plan, my intention is to go to those neighbors and have all of them support a revised. I think we will need the length we have now. We will need that length next year or possibly more as we watch the lake go down this year, or we'll end up having 7 boats instead of 8. And that's kind of a sticky wicket in that our boating members are granted a 6-year term as boaters at specific docks. And we don't have anybody having their term end next year. It'd be really convenient if we were down to 7 boaters at the end of this season. And then we could bring forward and say, okay, if you want us to keep this length, then we will move to 7 boaters. But in the past, the precedent had been set that it was viewed by the city of Birchwood management as a great source of revenue. Each boating member pays the city $750 a year. So in the last 4 years, we've paid them $63,750 that has gone into a parks fund. So,
okay.
One other dimension, if I may, just to add, on our application, and I inherited the applications, and I've shamelessly replicated previous applications. Now we got a whole new thing, so I'm learning more under duress. But there's 2 fields you have for the length, and then we're kind of caught on we believe your primary interest is the length over water from the water's edge in. And we've kind of gotten in a little trouble in that the length from the shoreline in as a ramp. So in the case of like Elm, we made the ramp shorter by 8 feet, and that brought us into compliance, and we were in good shape. But I'm just curious if there's some guidance that could be offered with respect to, like on the application, there's 2 fields, and if maybe that's something that isn't relevant to these kind of docks, that really that could just be left 1 field blank and the primary field filled out what is the length of the dock over water, if that makes sense.
Okay. So,
But isn't the length from the high water mark? Right. Like, so it's just a very simple.
Near high water.
Our ordinance says it's from the high water mark, you measure from that, and that's your length. Forget about how far you want. If you want to go to the street, you go to the street. But it's that measurement, and if you go over it, we apply for that, right? Make sure you apply for that, and then the city approves it. And if the city doesn't approve it, and it doesn't get to us,
Doesn't get to us.
then it doesn't get to us, right?
So I think that, and Chris, you might want to talk into your mic there. Okay, so a couple of things. One is I don't see an application in our packet tonight for an amendment to your docs. And were you anticipating that we would have something, we would act on it at this meeting?
We submitted that paperwork it was our council in Birchwood approved it last week. I got an email only yesterday indicating that it's called the clerk, the administrator, submitted it to the Conservation District. So I was amazed it was on the agenda tonight in that you hadn't had time to even see these applications. But
sure.
I have a copy with me, and probably Alan could pull up an electronic copy.
Yeah, thanks, Dana. Rebecca is our new administrator clerk, and it looks like she sent this, and I don't know when Sherry took off, but it was, in fact, just submitted to this office yesterday. So that would explain. So I would just table this until everyone has a chance to look at it.
That's a great idea.
And
Can I add one more thing? I think what you guys have to do, forget about the city. You're going to have to go talk to the neighbors, too, about the changes that you've done. Right?
Yeah, well, and I've submitted, I've sent that letter.
Not submission, like getting them on the same page that, fine, we wouldn't move to 10 feet because Mary said so. Are you okay with that?
And it sounds like you've sent a letter out in that regard.
If I could rewind to that just a second. But time out, Chris.
Okay.
The 10-foot change, when that was requested, I created the document and provided it to Rebecca. And on my cover note, I wrote and I said, please communicate this information to each of the neighbors the 4 neighbors on each side. And I gave the addresses of those parties. But we were operating under a very tight timeline as the Dock Association. So I actually requested to have them do that on our behalf.
It's up to you to go talk to the neighbors right now. Like it's not Mary who's going to go talk. It's not the city. Like the changes you're doing, whether they're forced on you or not, the association's going to have to go talk to those neighbors and tell them about the changes. Because if they get upset, then what? Now we've already done something. Now what do we do? Now we got to move it back because the neighbor doesn't like it.
The 10 feet's a little easier because this is all happening within the ADUA, is my understanding.
Yes.
And so it's really getting it into more the middle of, I think, the lot than anything. But
so the neighbor doesn't have, we put the neighbors on the permit. We want to make sure the neighbors are happy. Like that's one of the kind of.
Well, I guess the point is it's far enough away from both neighbors that it wouldn't be encroaching.
Alan, I get your opinion, but what about the neighbor? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's had something, right?
Maybe you should counsel these guys then.
Well, okay.
Well, here, how about we do this? Hey, how about we do this? So let's table it. If you folks could just make sure everybody's informed, then we will deal with this at our August meeting.
Okay, great.
All right, and thanks for all your efforts. It sounds like you're trying to do the right thing, and sometimes that's difficult.
When you're just a knucklehead, you really try to play by the rules, so you get in trouble. So you don't want to go to the principal's office anymore than is necessary. So thank you, and thank you for the service you provide. And it's a precious asset and resource. It's a beautiful place.
Okay, well, thanks for coming out and talking to us.
Sorry, Dana, it was more advice than anything.
Thanks, Coach.
Can I ask a question to the board on this subject? Is the line of communication is the White Bear Conservation District to the city of Birchwood, right?
Yep.
City of Birchwood is never here. It's always the dock association. And when that missing middle piece is missing, it leads to issues, right? For them, for us.
Yeah, but you have to remember that the dock association is brought on to manage the docks for the city of Birchwood. So they do have ownership on it.
Yeah. They are
Yeah,
in place of the city, so to say. So that's why when they make an application, it comes to the city, and then the city ends up, because Rebecca's the one that submitted this.
I understand. So if the city gives a suggestion, it's up to you guys to go drive it. They're the management of the whole, all of it.
Okay.
Is that good, Darren? Maybe not satisfactory, but
I've been stuck in the middle of trying to help them out too. And
Sure.
there's always a missing piece. And so I just was, for future, if we can streamline things and get all the right parties in the room.
I don't think you're going to get it. These are the right people to do it. It's like we just have to give them guidance on what they should get, right?
Right.
So if we're going to extend the dock, we give them we say make an amendment. We get the different permit. We do those things, right? But it's like we're jumping to things that Mary's asking for, which we shouldn't. We should question and like go in front of us and like we should approve it and then do it, right?
Sounds good. I guess I struck a nerve with me when you offered that we are kind of stuck in the middle, and maybe on something it might be helpful for someone from our council to be present occasionally. But we're a private. It's like a nonprofit thing. And we're directed under city ordinances of Birchwood to meet the requirements of the thing. But it's just to manage the docks, and we are kind of. We're lucky they let us fill out the application, and they are actually saving time and money because they don't have to train somebody how to do it. In fact, that's their new administrator brought to the council's attention when they're talking about, well, maybe we should manage these. And she says, well, be prepared to budget a lot more hours of time and energy and training to understand how to do it. So we take this responsibility very seriously, but it occasionally does feel like we're the monkey in the middle in that.
But there isn't money. It's not a middle thing. You are in there as the management for the docks. That is your role. That's it. There's nothing more, nothing less. So it's like I'm letting you guys know, like, the city's going to give you advice and they're going to tell you what to do. Then it's up to you how you want to manage it. Because then they're going to go back to, if you don't want to manage it, they'll manage it. Because that's the next logical progression, right?
okay, are we good to move on?
Sorry.
All right, thanks again, Dana. Next item, approval of Manitou Island Association permit application. Looks like it's the same as it's been in the past. It was just an oversight on their part to get it into us. Now it's into us, and I'll make a motion to approve. We have a motion and a second to approve the application. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That passes. Okay, next, Lake Education Committee, Meredith.
All right, I'll take over for Scott tonight since he is out. Invasive yellow iris. We put up information on our website and also our social media. It had about 4,000 views on the social media and more on the website. And we didn't get any feedback from any homeowner that they have found any yet. We did, with Sherry, send out a letter to the two people that do have it on their site where we found it in Commercial Bay, and they should be receiving the letters soon. In front of you, I've left a brochure on the invasive yellow iris that we have created. This is going to be if you guys think it's good, it'll be our brochure for Market Fest. We're going to have a few of these at our booth. And I would be seeking, Sherry thought it would be about $85 to do color copies so the pictures turn out better for the Market Fest booth. So I would have a motion to spend maybe up to $100 on copies for our Market Fest booth.
Second. We have a motion and a second to spend up to $100 to create materials for the Market Fest booth. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that passes.
Okay, and along with the Market Fest.
Mike? Sorry.
I'm writing while I'm listening and talking. So this is invasive yellow iris. Now, the technical name is yellowtail iris or yellow flag iris. Is that addressed? I haven't had a chance to read through here. Because when it's referred to, it's invasive, that's true, but yellow iris itself is not invasive.
So the brochure says invasive yellow iris is also called yellow flag or yellowtail iris.
Okay.
But I think it raises the point, and Meredith, if you would be okay with this, since this is just getting to us tonight, and Market Fest is coming up, could we take until Friday of this week to pass comments on this brochure to Meredith, and so she can make any final adjustments, and then have it prepared for publication?
That's my only comment is, is it misleading? And I don't know how it's described, like on the DNR website and that, if they call it yellow iris, or if they call it yellow flag or yellow tail each time they refer to it.
Okay, so maybe you can look into that.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Okay. I see on right now where it says DNR, they just have, aquatic plant / yellow iris / so maybe this is just fine.
Yeah, I'd be happy to receive any comments on it, and I'd be happy to change anything the board would like changed.
I'll go with whatever you discover.
Email me by Friday, and I would be happy to make changes. We have a booth at Market Fest on July 28th. Market Fest is from 6 to 9 p.m., and we're wondering if anyone wants to volunteer. You could also email me, maybe by Friday. We do have 6 shirts and some baseball hats if you want to volunteer to be at our booth. We could take people for just part of the time, too, if you're interested in that. Along with the yellow iris information, we're going to have information on Adopt-A-Drain. We've borrowed an interactive display from the Adopt-A-Drain Minnesota to use at our booth. So we'll be promoting that as well.
Susie, could you be quiet while Meredith is talking, please? Thank you. Sorry, Meredith.
Oh, that's okay. And then the update on the Adopt-A-Drain, we are up to 443 drains adopted, with our goal being 596. And then social media for this month, I'm going to promote our appearance at Market Fest. I'm going to do another post on Adopt-A-Drain, and I'm going to put up our office hours on our social media, as those haven't been up since they've been changed. Does anyone have any questions for me or want to jump in and volunteer for our Market Fest booth?
I'll say I would love to volunteer, but I'm out of town next week.
Okay.
But it's good, but it sounds like you and Scott may be there.
Okay.
Well, you and Scott may be there?
Yeah, and Sherry
and maybe Sherry?
Yep.
Nice.
And Chris now.
Chris, way to go, Chris. Okay, any questions for Meredith? Okay, thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
Treasurer's report, Mike.
We all have a copy of the treasurer's report. Excuse me. I would like to make a motion to accept and pay check number 4771 through 4779.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the checks. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Okay, next is the USGS survey. On our balance sheet, we carried over $599.68 from when we did the lake level study, and the USGS did the work. We were the repository for all the groups that donated money towards this work, and we have this balance left that we've been carrying every year since. We could continue carrying it, kind of up to the board, whatever we want to do. Or maybe we could contact the USGS survey, Perry Jones to be exact, and ask them maybe for a final report or something that we would want to ask that would have to do with the lake level, like what's happened, where are we going, a total summary. to use up that final money. The money has to be spent on the lake level survey because that's what it was collected for. Can you think of topics we might want them to address and bring back to us for a presentation? I think it could be pretty interesting. If you want to think about it.
Yeah, and that might be a question for USGS too. They might have some ideas as well as say, we have this money, we would like to get it off our books.
Yeah, I can call Perry and have suggestions. It's not something we have to do right this minute, but I think it could be really something interesting.
Yeah, agreed. And has Perry retired? Yeah, that's what I thought. I think maybe Perry's retired, so you might have to contact somebody else there.
Okay. I talked to him on the phone about a month ago. So.
Oh, well, maybe he's not retired.
But that doesn't mean he's not retired.
And do you want to take the lead on that, Mike?
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
But otherwise, think about it and email me or just email into the website, and it'll find me about what you think would be interesting about a lake level study. What happened? Can you tell us what happened? What's going on now? What do you see going on now? And what does the future look like? What should we expect? Because they should have enough information to talk pretty knowledgeable about that stuff. I think it'd be interesting myself.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also, this isn't the only area where they're looking at that kind of stuff. And so they may have information from other sites that would be beneficial to know about White Bear Lake.
Mm-hmm.
I just have one comment. A lot of people ask why we can't just stop that output on the lake.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be something for him to address, because the public has that question really often, why we can't just plug up that output.
Okay.
And what happens if we do.
Okay, there's the first topic.
Okay, is that it for you, Mike?
Anything else? I guess that's it.
Okay, any questions for Mike? Okay, thank you, Mike. Next on the agenda, board council report. Alan?
Thank you, Chair and Board. I'd say probably the most interesting thing we did was, again, Mark and I just taking a look at Commercial Bay. And one thing that I also discovered is every agency that does law enforcement, at least through the BCA, has what's called an ORI, which is a designation, it's a number that's assigned by the FBI. And in order to go through the BCA to actually charge anything beyond what local law enforcement can charge, which is anything more than basically a misdemeanor. So nowadays, if any of you got caught speeding, you'll notice that you get a ticket that almost looks like a receipt because it's just printed off mobily. So hopefully everyone goes, no, because we never get tickets, so we never see them. But anyway, they can print them off right in their car, and it's on a program called Ticket Writer. And so anything more serious than that, and the local folks on the boats and the cars can't do that. And so the charging has to go through a central clearinghouse, which is through the BCA, the Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions. And in order to do that, you have to have one of these ORI numbers that's actually assigned by the FBI. And so over the course of COVID and necessity, figured out that we don't have one of those. And so a couple of my other jurisdictions had to renew their 5-year lease with the BCA. And in so doing, I talked to the coordinator of that and discovered that it's like, how come I can't pull down the menu and have White Bear Lake Conservation District come up? It's because it's never been assigned an ORI, a registration number. And so we're in process of doing that. The contract has been sent now to Sherry, and there wasn't enough time to get that on the agenda. So we'll be seeing that next month just to kind of tee it up so you understand where it's coming from, because we'll be voting on it, and so I'll probably give a little narrative next month. But that's coming, and then we'll be able to actually charge through. There's not that many gross misdemeanors or felonies that actually happen on the lake, and the only thing that I would be responsible for are the gross misdemeanors. Misdemeanors, again, can get the receipt wheel, ticket writer, and the felonies would organically go to the county. And so we wouldn't see those anyway. And so it's just that one little narrow level of criminality that has to get charged through the BCA. So it was interesting to find out that we don't have that. So yay, us, we're going to have one. So anyway, I would stand for questions, and I'll go out with the drone and get some more shots. And now that you've seen what was to be seen at the status quo as of a couple of weeks ago. I'll probably try to grab one that's indicative and send that around so everyone can see it through Sherry. So you'll have that in advance just in case something happens to Mark next month and we can't have an LUC. So Mike and I were talking before the meeting too, and it might be smart to get a vice chair for LUC. So it sounds like there's enough membership even amongst the board that we can do that. So then we could still have an LUC when Mark's not around. Just something to think about. Maybe exec could take that up this month.
Yep.
So anyway, again, I'd stand for questions.
Any questions for Alan?
All right, thanks everyone.
I do.
Oh, one, sorry.
What's
Darren.
the disciplinarian process for repeated violations? I guess as it relates to docks and the situation that this visitor brought up.
If someone's outside of their...
There was a verbal warning in May. There was a written letter in June. Supposedly they're in compliance. I can vouch that as of Sunday they weren't. So you're going to go out and get...
We'll verify.
How does this work?
We'll verify.
Right, you'll verify,
so at that
and then
point,
what?
It's really not a, well, technically if they're working beyond their permit. And so let's take the obvious, which is here's someone who has a dock and he's been asked to actually move it, okay? And we verify that it hasn't been moved from at least visually what looks like the same standpoint. They could be issued a misdemeanor because now they're actually working beyond the permit that's been issued by the board. We could levy some sort of civil fine, bring them in and say, why haven't you done this, and see what the explanation is. That's typically how it goes. So rarely do we have to get to the point where we actually issue a misdemeanor tag.
Right.
But, enforcement's entirely up to you.
So realistically, we discuss it in August, then we make a decision, we bring them in September, potentially, and then...
Potentially.
Yeah.
One of the things that we talked about over the course of the winter, and this was an executive discussion, is, how do you go after the people that have too many boats? And that's always been a point of discussion for the board. And I think we settled on if you have too many one year, you just get one less than you were permitted the next year. So kind of not only, you'll pay for it next year, sort of that would be the price. And I don't think we've ever had to take someone from Commercial Bay who didn't heed the directive of the board to swing a dock over. So there's only a couple of people who've been here as long as I have. Mike, have we ever run into that? Has there been a penalty for that? I don't think it's happened.
Yeah.
Everyone's listened and done what they were supposed to do.
Okay.
So we can get creative, I guess.
Right, yeah. I just see our process, and I know we have to go through it, but, go from May to September before anything can be done. You can count up the slips that have been negatively impacted by this, and 2022 is over for them.
It's the hard part about it being a board that meets once a month, and you've got a narrow window. And so, in some cases, unfortunately, it's easier to just sort of ignore the directive than it is to do something about it when you've got I don't think this dock would be that big a deal because technically there's not supposed to be anything on it, right? The gas dock per se. It's not like you have to move 60 boats or something like that. So anyway, the best thing you can do is bring the person in there, put them right there, and say, why didn't you do what we told you to do?
Chris?
Okay, any other questions for Alan? Okay, thank you, Alan. Anybody have any announcements? Okay. We're on to item 10, adjournment. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn? We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Okay, we're adjourned. Oh, I'll take the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.
Hey, Mike, Perry Jones, I talked to